A screw cap doesn't mean a bad wine by no means. Just look at this bottle of gorgeous Australian Shiraz. It's a top quality wine, costs 200 Australian dollars or about 130 US dollars, which is not cheap for a bottle of wine. And it is sealed with a screw cap. On the other hand, there are lots of cheap wines sealed with agglomerated corks or even natural corks, so the closure is not the mark of quality. I would say that it's a mark of style of wine. Wines of the New World are more probable to be sealed with screw caps. They use really a lot of screw caps in New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, even for top quality wines. And in the Old World, basically in Europe, they tend to use more natural corks. In fact, a screw cap is much cheaper than a natural cork. A screw cap costs just a couple of cents, when a top quality natural cork may cost up to 2-3 euros. It's 100 times the difference. But it's not all about the cost. An agglomerated cork basically is just small pieces of cork glued together, cost the same as a screw cap, a couple of cents. But the main characteristic of a screw cap is that it doesn't allow any oxygen inside the bottle. That is why it is extremely popular for fresh white wines like Sauvignon Blanc, because they are meant to be drunk young and fresh, and oxidation is the major enemy of these wines. And for long years of maturation, especially for red wines, it's really better to seal a bottle with a good quality natural cork, because it allows just a tiny bit of oxygen inside the bottle, and it helps to develop tertiary aromas in wine over the pass of the years. And now we've come to the second wine myth which needs to be debunked right now. It sounds like the older the wine is, the better. And that is completely untrue. As in the case with closures, it all depends on the style of the particular wine. Like anything in the world basically has its own most probable usage scenario, right? A Ferrari is designed to be fast and furious on ideal asphalt, a big all-wheel truck feels good in the wilderness, and a small Fiat is a typical city dweller. If we put Ferrari to knead dirt, a truck into the narrow city streets, and a city car on the fast lane, it will be quite confusing for each of these, right? And exactly the same it is with wines. Some wines are meant to be enjoyed while they are young and fresh and fruity with simple primary aromas, while the others reach their best condition after some years in the cellar. Again, it's not about the right and the wrong. Each wine has its purpose. Some are enjoyed with friends on the beach, and the others in Michelin-starred restaurants in corresponding ambience. Yes, these wines differ a lot in price, but it doesn't mean that more expensive wines, which should be aged, are better. Sometimes you just want to take it easy and drink a simple glass of wine. And young wines don't benefit from aging at all, because they just lose its freshness and don't get anything in return. So older wine is not always a better wine. It really depends. By the way, consider subscribing to my free newsletter. I just share my wine experience once a week. No spam, just some insights on the wines that I personally enjoy. The link is in the description down below. And probably you've mentioned at least a couple of times some sediment when you open a bottle of wine. Does the sediment mean that the wine went off and it is not drinkable anymore? Of course not. There are basically two types of sediment in wine, and neither of them is dangerous. The first one is the most common, which is lees. It's just bodies of dead yeast. Well, I'm not quite sure that yeast have bodies, but you got the idea. Some winemakers decide not to filtrate their wines in order to add some complexity and authenticity to them, just to emphasize on its naturality. As if they say, hey, look, this wine is organic, I haven't even filtrated it. Look at this is so authentic. And sometimes wine really benefits from no filtration. Sometimes it's just a marketing move. It really depends. But anyway, lees are not harmful and they don't spoil wine or any kind of thing. The second kind of sediment may be tartrate. Tartrates are a natural component of wine, and over time they may fall down and form a sediment. Some people call them wine diamonds. I just prefer a less poetic name, just tartrates, and they are absolutely harmless for people in quantities they are present in wine. Like, if you grab a spoon and start eating tartrates like a soup, probably it's not the healthiest thing you can do, but in wine there are too few tartrates to harm in any way. So sediment is not bad for wine, neither it is bad for your health. It's just a myth no more than that. And if it's not tartrate, which give me a headache after drinking wine, probably it is CO2. On every bottle of any wine, it's written contains sulfites. Aha! And probably these are the harmful chemical substances in charge of my headache the next morning, think some people, and they are completely wrong. Some CO2 is formed in wine as a byproduct of fermentation. Some SO2 may be added on purpose to just stabilize the wine and protect it from undesirable microorganisms, but they have nothing to do with the headache after drinking wine. The only reason for that is alcohol. More precisely, acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde, is it pronounced like that? Probably. I'll write it somewhere here, which is a product formed when our body metabolizes alcohol. Acetaldehyde is a poisonous chemical substance which causes hangovers, and if alcohol is consumed excessively over a long period of time, it may cause liver problems as well. There is some research on the nature of headache, which comes just after drinking a glass of wine, long before a hangover may strike, and all of them say that it may be due to some histamines in wine. Basically, it's just an allergic reaction of some people to some chemical components in wine. All these chemicals are naturally formed, not added in the winery, but still some people have allergies to them. A person may even be allergic to CO2, but it's not directly sulfites that cause headache. It's an allergic reaction to sulfite. So no, sulfites itself don't give us a headache. Mythbuster. And wine in boxes, are they always bad? Here I partially agree that box wines have this reputation of low quality plonk wines, but actually there is nothing bad with box wines. The main advantage of box wines is that inside the box there is a plastic bag which reduces in volume when we pour the wine, so it leaves no space to air and consequently preserves wine from oxidation. If we just open a bottle of wine, we have to protect it somehow from oxidation so that it wouldn't go off, like we have to pump out the air or use an inert gas system or just something. With box wines, we don't even need to do it because the producer has already done everything for us by putting the wine in a plastic bag inside this box. Of course, the best wines are not sold in boxes because wine cannot age in a plastic bag. But for young, fresh wines meant to be drunk in a matter of months after the production, it may be a good option. And now let's have a look at what we are drinking the wine from. Basically, the glasses. Something that they should always be with a long stem, when in fact the stem is not necessary at all. A stem in a wine glass is just a smart device helping us not to alter the temperature of wine by holding the bowl by our hands. This is the only purpose of a stem. But the form of the bowl is way more important than the presence of a stem. Like, you can enjoy wine if it is slightly more chilled than needed in a glass without a stem, just holding it by your hands, but you cannot enjoy wine at all if it doesn't have some space to interact with the air. In fact, the worst glass for wine ever created is a flute, because it just doesn't have any kind of a bowl for the wine to interact with the air. A flute is just a straight line, no extra space. Yes, flutes are still very popular for sparkling wines because they demonstrate the perlage, all the beautiful bubbles in wine. And from the tasting point of view, flute is not the best option. As well as tears or legs on the surface of the glass don't mean quality wine. I've also heard this myth several times. But no, tears on the glass don't have any relation to the quality of wine, nor to the sugar in wine. It's just alcohol. The more alcohol there is in wine, the more dense the legs on the glass will be. Full stop. If we add some more sugar to wine, it won't make any difference on the legs, their quantity or quality. But if we pour some more alcohol into the wine, we'll see the difference. And of course, the quality of wine cannot be measured by ABV percentage. It's just nonsense. Please like and subscribe if you loved this video, and watch this one next about how a tiny bit of secret ingredient can make any wine better.